The Philadelphia 76ers are one of the most talented rosters in the league. With the addition of Kelly Oubre this past week, the team now has 4 players who averaged at least 20 points per game last season, and a 5th in Tobias Harris who has the ability to put up numbers like that as well. They have the reigning MVP, an emerging young star, and last season's leader in assists per game. But due to a trade request by one of those 3 in James Harden, the whole thing is now up in question. It's his 3rd trade request in about 3 seasons, which is just all-time numbers in that category. But this one is by far the most confusing. He had spent 8 years in Houston and felt as if he hadn't been given adequate talent around him to win a title. That's fine. He wanted out of Brooklyn because of all the drama surrounding the team, also fine I guess. Although I am still disappointed he broke up one of the most gifted teams of the past decade without giving it a real chance. But why does he want out of Philly? Him and Joel Embiid seem to be friends. They got rid of the coach he didn't like in Doc Rivers. And they were 1 game away from the conference finals last season. Maybe he feels like he wasn't offered the money he deserves, but he wasn't getting a full 4-year max anywhere else either. I know that because he opted into his contract for a reason. He has stated he wants to be traded to the Clippers, but I'm not convinced they give him a better chance to win the title than the team he's currently on. The 76ers are very talented. It's a great team if Harden's on it, and would have a real argument as the best one in the East. So I'm telling you he should toughen up and report to training camp, then play for the Sixers this season, because this team is good enough to win it all. So I'm not going to spend much time talking about his trade request for the rest of the video. I'm rather going to go through the roster and talk about how good this team could and should be. James Harden is sabotaging the 76ers title window. Now let's take a deeper look at why. Before we get into the always chaotic team in Philadelphia, if you enjoy my content or watch a few videos of mine, think about subscribing. 91% of my viewers are actually not subscribed, so if you're watching before and enjoy the content, drop a sub and comment down below. It really helps the channel. The 76ers are one of the NBA's hardest teams to predict right now. It's not because they're not good. They have a real argument as the best roster in the Eastern Conference. Rather, it's because we have no idea if James Harden will even report to camp, and if he does, what shape he'll be in. He's clearly not afraid to make things difficult and attempts to force his way out of town. But if he just shows up and plays, the 76ers will be a top 3 seed in the East once again. The team had the NBA's best record after December 1st of last season, and I think there's a real argument that they got better this offseason. They lost 3 guys that played some minutes for them in Georges Niang, Shake Milton, and Jalen McDaniels, but they also added Kelly Oubre, Patrick Beverley, and Mo Bamba. I also expect steps forward from guys like Tyrese Maxey and Paul Reed. The 76ers can compete for a title this season, but that depends on the players. So let's take a look at the impact guys for Philly. When talking about the Sixers, you have to start with the reigning MVP Joel Embiid. He has finished either 1st or 2nd place in MVP voting in each of the last 3 seasons. He's the most physically dominant big man we've seen in a long time, and is just an extremely gifted player. Last season, he averaged 33 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 blocks per game. He has led the league in scoring both of the past 2 seasons. He's easily a top 10 player in the league and makes the 76ers one of the best teams in the league. His footwork is impeccable, and I'd say when you watch him, he feels like the most unstoppable one-on-one player in the league. If he has it in the post, sometimes it just feels as if there's nothing the defender can do. His playoff numbers have historically been noticeably worse in the regular season, and that's something he needs to work on. But he's undeniably one of the league's brightest stars. Then I'll take us to the team killer, James Harden. The drama that comes with him has become a massive headache, but you can't deny his production on the court. After a somewhat slow start to his time with Philadelphia in 2022, he had a resurgent season last year. He averaged 21 points, 11 assists, 6 rebounds, and a steal per game. He also shot a career-high 39% from 3. He led the league in assists per game. He should have made the All-Star game and had a legit case to make All-NBA as well. He ended up making neither, but he was one of the league's best guards. He's been willing to allow Embiid to go to work, and has done a great job becoming more of the complimentary guy than the team's alpha like he was in Houston. His playoffs were very up and down last year, but he did have two 40-point games that both included game winners. Some say he lost Philly the series against Boston, but he was also the reason they were in it in the first place. The Clippers, who are led by two injury-prone stars, are just not a better situation than Philadelphia. Then we should talk about rising star Tyrese Maxey. Despite going 21st overall in the 2020 NBA Draft, he has already evolved into a 20-point-per-game scorer and likely all-star for the 76ers. He's still only 22 years old and hasn't even come close to his peak yet. Last season, he averaged 20 points, 4 assists, and 3 rebounds per game. He's also quietly a sniper from three-point range, shooting 43% from downtown last season. He averaged 22 points per game against the Nets in the playoffs, while shooting 50% from three, and honestly won them a game in that series. His trainer has said that it will be a disappointment if Maxey doesn't average 25 or more points per game this season. We could see his first All-Star appearance in year 4, especially if Harden isn't around. Then I'll take us to free agent addition Kelly Oubre. After going unsigned for most of the offseason, he signed a minimum deal with the 76ers a few days ago. It's a steal for a player that puts up the production he does, but he hasn't proven to be a winning player to this point. He'll have something to prove this season. Last year with the Hornets, he averaged 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 1.4 steals per game. It was arguably the best season of his career, and he really stepped up with the absences of LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges. He's not super efficient, but slashes to the rim and is great on the fast break. He could start for the team, but they may choose to use him as a scorer off the bench. Tobias Harris was quoted as saying the fans would trade him away for a crumble cookie. It's a bit of an exaggeration, but he has gotten a lot of flack from fans over the past few years. Maybe they blame him for Jimmy Butler no longer being there, who knows. But Harris isn't a bad player. In fact, he's still an above-average power forward in the game today. Last season, he averaged 15 points and 6 rebounds, with incredibly efficient 50, 39, 88 shooting splits. He does lack aggression at times, but Tobias Harris is undoubtedly a very good NBA player, especially as your team's 4th or 5th option on offense. Then I want to spend some time talking about young big man Paul Reed. He got a big raise this offseason as the team had to match the 3-year, $23 million contract offered to him by the Utah Jazz. He hasn't been given much opportunity to this point, but has really shined when on the court. He's become a fan favorite and even given the nickname B-Ball Paul. Last season, he averaged 14 points, 13 rebounds, 2 steals, and 2 blocks per 36 minutes. It's not a perfect stat, but at least makes it clear the team should give him more of a chance. With Niang departing and Bamba being a disappointment so far, I'd say there are minutes open for him in the front court. In terms of lineup, the starters for the Sixers, assuming Harden is there, will likely be Harden, Maxey, PJ Tucker, Harris, and Embiid. Then the second unit should be DeAnthony Melton, Pat Bev, Oubre, Daniel House, and B-Ball Paul. Guys like Furkan Korkmaz, Mo Bamba, and Jaden Springer could get minutes as well. So what should we expect from the Sixers in 2024? On the low end, they could trade away Harden for little return and finish somewhere between 5th and 7th in the East. However, I think there's a nearly 0% chance the team misses the playoffs. On the high end, the team could be the number 1 seed in the East again and have a really good chance at representing the East in the finals. Expect at least 2 All-Stars in Embiid and 1 of Maxey or Harden. However, if all goes well, all 3 could make it. The 76ers are one of the best teams in the league and have the reigning MVP. They deserve a shot at the title. They've been constructed too well to have that just ripped away. Hopefully, Harden realizes that, stops being selfish, and helps his friend Joel Embiid make a title run. Thanks for watching. I'm Herm. Have a good one.